Other press outlets, you all doing well?
Yes.
Excellent.
Mostly, yeah.
You doing well as well?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Okay. We're gonna start right now while it sounds like things are a little chaotic over in green room gathering with people. So we can start, if you don't mind doing some one-on-ones from now, and then we'll go from there. So we can just do an introduction of each of our outlets so you know who you're talking to.
Oh, me first. I'm Julia with Gage, Colorado.
Philip with Area DMG, DMG Ice.
Nice to meet you.
Juan from Good Day Sports.
Chris and Jim from the Games Lab.
All right.
And yeah, let's go ahead.
Cool.
Hi. So Julia again with Gage, Colorado. So thank you first of all for coming here to Colorado. I know it's definitely a journey for you, but I wanted to know what got you into voice acting.
So when I was a kid, I was a child actor actually, but I kind of left that life behind because I didn't like being on camera and I didn't like being on stage. But as I was getting older, when I was in college, I was doing a bunch of different things and couldn't find something I liked. Tried creative writing, wasn't into it. Tried costume design, wasn't into it. And finally, a friend of mine showed me an anime that was dubbed, and I was like, I could do that. I'm an actor. So from there, I just started doing indie stuff online, and then I moved to Texas to work with Funimation. And after about a year, I booked Fairy Tale, which was my first big gig. Thank you.
And is this your first time here at Nan Desu, and what do you think of it so far?
I've been having a lot of fun, and yes, it is my first time. I had heard really great things because my con agent is also another actor friend of mine, and she spoke very highly of it, but I'd never been before. I'm having a great time.
Making sure to drink water?
Yes. And Capri Sun.
How was the transition from Funimation to Sony when the Crunchyroll purchase went through?
I actually was not there. I moved out to California shortly before it happened. So I've never been in the new Crunchyroll building. I've never seen it. There was a bit of a difference in the fact that I used to direct shows for Funimation, and now that it's Crunchyroll, unfortunately, I don't anymore. So that seems to be one of the big major differences. But I have my fingers crossed that one day we'll get to work with them again.
What's your plan in Nan Desu? What's your plan?
My
How you
plan?
enjoy it? Like,
I'm just going where I'm brought. It seems like everyone knows where all the good stuff is, so I've just been following people who know this place a lot better than me. And I've just been having a lot of fun sitting at my table and talking to people. Like, a lot of people have come up to just talk, and that's one of my favorite things to do at cons. Because I just like the con vibe, I like the con atmosphere. When I was a kid, I was a con kid. So just sitting at my table watching the con go by is like one of my favorite things to do.
Hello.
I think Ian had
Yeah. We've got more of our guests having arrived, so we're going to bring them in.
Join.
Everyone come join, and we can start the full guest experiences over there. Do you mind? Excellent.
Hello.
Hello.
Sit with me.
Better work.
Excellent.
You want to scoot down one so that you guys are more towards the middle?
Yes.
There you go.
I was finishing the
Yeah, we got two more coming, correct?
Yes.
Okay, they can flop onto the
Yeah,
end when
yeah,
we get
yeah.
here.
Perfect.
I don't think we've met. Hi. Welcome.
We all have to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Michael. I'm with
Michael.
the media group here.
Yay.
I'm just going to be filming what you guys are asking and doing.
Sure thing.
I like your Black Bulls cloak.
Oh, thank you. I fear it could be an ambiguous character since they keep popping up everywhere. It doesn't matter.
Sounds like Black Bulls.
Anybody.
Yes, anyone can be a black hole.
True.
So we can run through a second set of the introduction there, and then go from there. Yeah.
I'm Julia Billback with Gage, Colorado.
Philip with Area DMG, DMG Ice.
Juan from Good Day Sports.
And Chris and Jim from the Games Lab.
Perfect. Oh, and two more.
There you go.
We've got spaces on it.
Yay! One on each end.
There's also on each end.
Where did you want?
First one on this
Okay,
side.
never mind.
Oh, okay. Grab an end.
My God.
Hello.
Absolutely.
And so, as I was saying before, we're just going to have our me and Alex, we will ask questions one by one, ask the whole group of you, ask individual, and people will go from there. Thank you. So, we can start.
So this question's for anyone who wants to take it, but I know the industry has lost a lot of great actors recently, and I just wanted to see, I know you guys do a lot of recording by yourself in booths, but is there anyone that you would like to work with in a project that you haven't had a chance to work with yet?
Unfortunately, as soon as you bring up the great actors that we've lost, that's who I think of.
Yeah.
I recently got the chance to direct the first 3 Digimon films. We are redubbing them uncut. It was really, really cool, but I really missed the opportunity to work with Bob Pappenbrook, Billy Sampler, Michael Lindsay, a lot of great, and Robert Axelrod. A lot of greats from that cast have unfortunately left us, so I think I'll always kind of default to them as my answer. Because I got the rest of the cast, and that kind of fulfilled my childhood dream all the way down the board. But those 4 especially will always stick in my head.
I think that recently we've seen a trend where Asian American actors are allowed to play Asian characters for once, which is very exciting. There's usually like one of us cast in the show, and it would be really great. I'd be excited to work with maybe more than one Asian actor in an anime series. That'd be great. I would love that.
I would like to work with more Black queer actors. I feel like, again, just like Oscar's saying too, like we're starting to see more kind of creep into more prominent roles and such like that. And as a kid, that was something that I always aspired. Like I didn't hear or see anyone that was like me. So to be in a position where I can be that for some new kid coming through and wanting to pursue acting or performing arts as a career, I would like to show that there are more of us, because there are, and they're really good friends of mine.
Yeah,
so
there are a lot of
we're
us,
like ready
actually.
to make our own anime at this point.
Yeah, there are a lot of us. You just don't hear us.
Thank you.
Next question?
Okay, I am going to reiterate a question I'd asked you earlier today, but it's about like non-DESCON. So far, I know some of this is your first convention, their first time here. What do you think of it so far, and what do you think of Colorado and how the convention's being run this year?
It's my first time here, and it's extraordinary. It's so well run. The staff are incredible. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of cons, been very lucky to do that, but this one just kind of feels like family. People just automatically embrace you. It's been really wonderful. And the like the attendees are extraordinary. They're so much fun. They're just very curious about everything. I'm having a great time. Very, very happy to be here.
Very similar to my answer, and I'm sure it sounds like a lot of hot air. I'm sure everyone is like, the con's great, but like legitimately, the con is great.
I don't usually smell this much at cons.
Usually too tired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's my first time here at Nan Desu as well, and I feel the same way. Like it feels like such a very, it's a con where it feels like the staffers care, the attendees care, and it feels very comfortable for me. And I think that's one of the most important things for me going to the convention. It's like I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel like, like I'm with like-minded people. So that's kind of how it feels to me. Also, Gaylord is beautiful. Like, I know we have like a long walk going from like our rooms to where we're set up, but I feel like every minute of the walk, like, oh, there's something new to look at. Oh, now that's something else. And, it's, wonderful venue too, so.
It's also exciting to see like the diversity in the guests.
Mhm.
Most of the cons I've been
Yeah.
to, I'm usually the only person of color there. So there's Howard's here, Reese's. Kiba's here. I was really shocked at like the roster. I was very, very excited. So another kudos to Nan Desu for that as well. Next question.
Yeah, so for those of you that have experience both with voice acting and stage and screen, like how do you contrast that? How do you work and prepare for those different types of work?
I mean, in voiceover, we barely get any time to prep unless we know exactly what we're getting cast as beforehand. Of course, like sometimes we'll get something that says you're in this show, but never get character or what we're doing. So that's a little different and something I had to adjust to when I first started voiceover. But I've been acting since I was 6. I started in LA and doing commercial and film and stage all the time. We get scripts and we have to, cold read and audition, or we get it and we have to have it memorized. And so I came script or something and they're like, nah, you just walk in the booth and here you go, and they throw you to the wolves. And it's been an interesting masterclass in improv, trying to figure out how to balance that, on the fly. But it's really fun. I like being able to think on my feet. It kind of has live theater elements that way, because you never know what's gonna happen.
They're
Personally,
also
I prefer
very
it.
different
Yeah, same.
forms of acting. Because I do suit character work as well for theme parks. I also did stage, on camera, film, TV commercials too. And you have to bring a different type of acting to the different mediums. So for example, suit character work, it's very physical and you have to act, you exaggerate your physicality for more on-screen stuff, especially with memorizing scripts.
Yeah.
Like, we're so spoiled with voiceover where we get a script, mind you, it's all cold reading, so most of the time we don't know context until the day of we get to the booth, and all of a sudden it's like, there it is, this is what you're working with. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna roll with this. But yeah, with a lot of stage on camera stuff, like I would have to memorize the script, go in there, kind of already have it formed in my head. And then there's also different elements, keeping track of like the eye lines, keeping track of your marks, keeping track of like who's saying what. It's a whole different ball game and different types of things that you have to juggle, and then different with mocap as well, because I do mocap. And so it's all very, very different, but they're all acting.
I think it's interesting that most of the directors at Crunchyroll are all theater people. They are theater actors, and like very good theater actors. And so also a lot of us also have come from theater, in fact, have done a lot of theater. And it's because when you go in the booth, like Kiva said, you don't really know, you never know what the lines are gonna be. You may know what the character is beforehand, that's a luxury. That's a huge luxury. Usually they're just like, okay, we're calling you for 2 hours, and you show up and it's like, surprise, here's your role, here are the lines, and boom, you know what I mean? So, but luckily theater actors are very familiar with cold reading, so we're not scared by that. We're ready to do it. So, and what's really been great is the writers are also, there are theater backgrounds as well. So like recently I did a show called Cherry Magic, and she wrote it.
Oh, you were so
and she put like the most extraordinarily intelligent, witty, smart references to Shakespeare, to like old archaic English usage. I was like, and I knew all because I'm a theater nerd, and I was in the booth nerding out so much. And afterwards I was like, Macy, oh my God, you're amazing. I was like freaking out. So it's just great. It's great for, it's great for theater people, because we all know theater doesn't pay a lot. But to know that theater actors also have another outlet, which is voiceover. Because the energy is very similar to theater. You have to bring a little bit of stylized, bigger than normal acting, as opposed to film stuff. So
The thing that I prefer about voiceover over theater is theater every night you're nervous. You're like, I have to do it right. Oh my God, what if I forget a line? What if it doesn't turn out good? But with voiceover, once you record it, it's perfect forever. People will rewatch it and they'll be like, it was great. And you're like,
oh my God.
Thank you. And directing it is great too, because I know actors get in my booth and they're so nervous. But I'm like, listen, once we record it, and it fits, and it's beautiful, and it's good for the scene, you never have to do it again. And then when people rewatch it, it'll be lovely every single time, and you never have to get up on that stage again. You can just enjoy it the way it is. And that's one of my favorite things about it, because I can go, look at this amazing performance, it's recorded. I have it forever.
But don't you find like, when I watch something, I'm like, I could have done that.
Yes. Darn it.
Dang it, I wish I read.
Here's the thing, when it's me, yes.
Yeah.
When it's a show I directed, I'm like, everyone was perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. I love that. My actors are my children, so I'm just like, they were all amazing. Oh my God, baby, you did great.
Yes.
When it's me, I'm like, oh, I could have done better.
I feel that.
Oh, I really like that. That's beautiful.
Next question.
With streaming becoming more and more prevalent, it feels like every year, is there a rush to complete your voice acting jobs more so than it used to be?
Yeah.
I have directed a bunch of simuldubs,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of us have been in simuldubs. Behind the scenes, it's even quicker than I'm sure it seems from the actor side. The actor side is like, I'm coming every week to do my character, and if they can't get me this week, they got to get a voice match, which is crazy to me. But I did a show that was 2 episodes a week.
What?
Arte was 2 episodes a week.
My gosh.
And so sometimes it can feel like you are marathoning through that show, which on the one hand is kind of fun because you don't have to wait for the next episode. You don't have to go, oh man, I wonder what's going to happen next. I know what's happening next. But also you're like, I don't have a lot of time to craft. I don't have a lot of time to work with it. So you just gotta, get some people that you really trust. I had a great cast on that show. I had Felicia Angel and Gianni Montegrano was my leads. So very strong cast, and then we just blitzkrieg through it.
That is a wild thing that's new, I think, with the whole simuldubbing. Like when that started, it was like crazy to think. Like I remember My Hero, even like during the pandemic when we were recording at home, it's like we still gotta get these episodes out, and we're in our closets and stuff recording at home and remotely, and just to think how streaming has kind of changed the landscape of a lot of our work. Even writing, I know you deal with this a lot, but like when I was writing a show that she was in, they were like, yeah, so you get the episode this day, and then we need it by like 2 days later, and then you have also that's 2 episodes at a time, and I was like, breathing heavy and screaming and sweating and being like, I don't know what's happening. So it is kind of wild to see how it has gone from like, yeah, let's do this episode, we're gonna go in, and now it's like, okay, there's 32 episodes this week, and you have 4 hours to complete it, so have fun.
But here's the thing, it's so necessary now, because
it
with the
is.
streaming culture, anime dies once it leaves its season.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you do not dub it the same season that it is relevant, people don't watch the dub.
Yeah.
People do not watch shows after the season is over unless it was really, really, really popular. So generally, you have to get it out week by week. As much as I'm sure all of us would love to take our time and love to, be artsy and really massage our work. If you're not right behind the Japanese broadcast, most people are not ever going to give the dub a watch unless it comes so much later that it's like a throwback. I recently directed the dubs of Gunbuster and Lovely Complex, and people watch those because those shows are so old that people are like, oh my god, it's a fresh reason to rewatch the show. But if you're doing a simuldub or a recent anime 1 season late, 2 seasons late, people are just like, why is it late?
Yeah, they're like, why are you here?
Yeah, why would I watch it now? I already watched it last season. So it really is a necessity of how anime culture has changed. And when I was young and going to cons, I remember the Gravitation dub premiered at my first con, and that was like a big event. For a dub to premiere was a big thing because they were probably working on it for months, and like nobody even knew it was coming. Now it's like if it's not getting announced within 2 weeks of the first Japanese episode, people assume it's never happening, and it's dead on the vine.
What do you think is the most important thing that you've learned since you've started your career?
I think it would be careful of reading the comments.
Yeah.
Make sure that you surround yourself by nice, lovely people, like these people, that are always there to support you, and make sure you're proud of your work. That's like, we don't have very long to make things, but I always try to make sure I'm proud of whatever it is. Like that's like been my biggest learning curve.
And in the vein of that, you have to be in it for the love of the craft, because you don't make a lot of money. People are all going to have different opinions on if you did good or if you did bad, and just in the industry in general, you face a lot more rejection than acceptance. When you look at the ratio of how much you audition versus how much you book, I mean, you're constantly, if you look at it that way, being rejected. But you really have to learn and teach yourself to look at it. It's just, I wasn't right for the role, not that I was bad. Otherwise, you can really just like get down in the dumps and think that you suck. So you just have to be in it for the right reasons and enjoy it. Otherwise, you will not have fun.
You hit the nail on the head. It's when you don't book something, it's not because you're not talented, ever. It's simply your interpretation of the character simply wasn't in line with the director's view, right? That's all it is. Just the fact that you got the audition already means that you belong there. You belong in this space, right? So when you don't book something, it's important for young actors to remember it's not personal. It's not commentary on your talent or your voice or your worth as an artist. It's mostly business.
I've got a great example.
Yeah.
I was directing a show called Kageki Shoujo.
Mhm.
Great show, highly recommend it. And when I'm going through auditions, I'm not going, this one's bad, this one's bad. I'm looking for the voice of this character. And as I'm going down, I'm just praying that everyone does great, because that makes my job so much easier. And I was getting towards the bottom of the list and going, oh no, I'm not finding this character's voice. Oh no, I start getting nervous until I hit Sandy Quinn, all the way at the bottom. And I go, oh thank God, there she is. As a director, we want the actors to succeed. We want them to book, because if we get through the whole list of actors and there's nobody, then it's panic time. It's panic time. So, that is, for me, one of the most important things I learned. When I get into the booth, I'm not nervous anymore. When I was new, I was really nervous all the time, because I was like, I want to do a good job, I hope they like me, oh my God, what if they never call me back again? But now as a director, I'm like, whenever anyone walks into my booth, I'm just like, cool, they're here, all right, let's do it. And it's a no judgment space. And once I realized that, being on the other side of the glass wasn't so scary. Because I was like, I know that they're not thinking about how bad I'm doing, or they're not thinking about how they regret hiring me. They're just thinking about the next line, and the next scene, and the character. And then on note of, don't read the comments, the really important thing to remember, especially if you get into anime for the love of anime, is the best thing to do is to make it good the way that you would think it's good.
I love
When I was a young weeb, I had my own opinions about what good dubs were and what good dubs weren't, so I just try and view my current work with what I think is good and what I think people will like. And I find, I see comments online that are like, I hated the dub, I hated her performance, I hated this, I hated that, but then people come up to me at cons and are like, I loved it, I loved her performance, I love this choice, I love that choice. I mean, it really is all opinion. So the important thing is to make it for the baby weeb in you, who would have liked a particular choice, or would have liked a particular fun thing that you did, or would have liked the voice to be a certain way, and just go, this is for you, baby weeb me. And then you just hope that most of the weebs of today are just like you. And oftentimes they are.
That's so good.
I think another thing to add on to all of that is, if you're a newer actor or you're somebody that doesn't book as frequently as others, people often, I don't think, realize how oversaturated the industry is as well. It's the most fun job in the world to have, and everybody wants to do it, and everybody deserves an opportunity to do it. But when you're not constantly in the vein of the people that are getting sessions and in the mind of the director at the time to get frequent work, having something else to do on the side to focus on instead of just waiting is a big thing in this industry, because you can go a little stir crazy a lot of the time, just waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen.
I was just about to make that point, because I don't want the misconception out there that you see us out here doing conventions that we do voice acting full time.
Right.
There are very, very few voice actors who only do voice acting full time. And out of that, almost none of them do anime voiceover full time. It is simply not a viable way to make a living. To have a mortgage, to put food on the table, like, it is not viable. So, like, one of the great things about meeting other actors and becoming an actor is you are an actor. Film, TV, commercial VO. I mean, like, there are so many options. Theater, like, you have to diversify your portfolio as an actor if you want to be, like, do it full time. And there's no shame in just want to do voiceover. That's fantastic. But just know you may have to pick up a commercial VO, because it pays like 10 times more than anime. I'm just saying. So, yeah, it's important. So when Cole said, like, have other, like, coals in the fire, Cole said, I'm so waiting. Okay, so that's for real. Like, the only reason that I survived and I get to work full time as an actor is because I do all of it. I say yes to everything. So
most people in Dallas have day jobs.
Yeah, exactly. So don't be under the, it's great to be up here. We're very grateful to be here. But don't think you seeing us up here means that we do this full time, and, like, we, you know what I mean? We don't. Most of us have, like, tons of other acting gigs too.
So I hope that's a comfort for young actors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, if you don't feel like you're where you're supposed to be, there is no supposed to be.
Yeah.
Don't should this or should I should be. No, don't should on yourself. You are where you are. Just enjoy the process and just be an actor. Period. Don't should on yourself.
Very funny.
As a professional voice actors, Is there any like a special way to carry your knack or voice?
To carry your natural voice?
Yeah, your
My
voice.
degree is in vocal performance and vocal pedagogy.
Is it really?
Yes, mine too.
Oh my god, you go, girl.
Oh my god. Okay, so for me, like what I do with my voice, I actually do vocal warm-ups every day.
Same.
Yeah,
Same.
do vocal warm-ups every day. Take care of your voice. You know, actually, like with all the teachers that I've learned from, you know what to do with your voice to keep it safe. You know what not to do. You learn your vocal limitations. For people who want to get into it, obviously take as many classes as you can. And if you haven't gone to college yet, then I would highly recommend getting a degree in vocal performance. I actually got my degree in classical voice because I wanted to learn, and I don't sing classically like outside, like I sing more pop R&B, but I wanted to give myself a solid foundation to kind of build on. So yeah.
I do sing classical, and like I use it a lot in the booth.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I say that, but most roles I book is very cinematic, so like it's more breathy,
Yeah.
which is weird because I'm classically trained.
Yeah.
And like the point is to not be breathy as a classical trained singer. But yeah, it's mostly like singing. Most of singing is 80% breathing.
Yeah.
Your support and how you're breathing, and then as you speak or sing, how are you using that breath, and what muscles are being engaged. So it's a very helpful degree to transition into voiceover, because you know how the voice works, you know about placement, resonance, and then also you know the warm-ups to make sure your chords are working properly. If it's dry that day, like I'll steam before a session, inhale steam. If I'm doing like a really intensive thing, I can feel myself swelling, 2 ibuprofen right before, like an hour before I have to like do the really heavy stuff, and that'll reduce the swelling. And then again, like I do vocal warm-ups every day. And then before the booth, I'm the crazy person in the booth, like doing lip trills over and over and over and over and over and over. Yeah, before I start.
I mean, I used to be a vocal coach for singers when I lived in Reno, and one of the things that I used to tell people, actors even, because I had actors always had to come in and take singing classes, and I was like, the number one thing I would say is find a vocal coach, like as an actor. I think even if you don't want to sing, like having someone that can teach you about your voice is like so important, because there's a lot of new actors that I've met recently. They're like, how are you like able to do these like higher characters and like for so consistently? And I'm like, well, that's just my classical theater training, like of years of being a tenor and trying to like play these characters. And so like teaching kids at the time that were going through like puberty and voice change, you had to deal with that type of range adjustment. And so what I learned when I was acting, and I had my own vocal coach, was like, it even helped me with like breathing, obviously, but also placement. When you're doing theater on stage, sometimes you don't have a microphone, so you have to project really loud notes and belt. And so to me, that is the equivalent of trying to do like a scream in an anime for like, 10 seconds or whatever, and for 4 hours long or whatever. So I always tell new actors, like, acting coaches are great. Obviously, you want to learn the acting. That's what the base of voice acting is. But it doesn't hurt to also have a vocal coach who can be like, hey, here's some great vocal warm-ups. This is where your range sits. Let's expand that. Let's help you get your range more comfortable. Because it is a muscle, so.
Totally.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a different angle that I kind of want to touch on is also just getting comfortable with your natural voice.
Yeah.
You can probably hear I have a very deep voice for a woman. And when I was new, whenever I was booked to voice a character around here, my natural instinct would be to start getting higher and higher, because I was like, this is what anime sounds like. This is what anime characters sound like. And they'd always be like, you're getting too high, you're getting too high. It took a long time for me to be comfortable giving any anime character my normal voice.
Yeah.
It took a really long time. And even now that I'm comfortable with it, like said comments, I still see comments being like, she sounds like a 50-year-old lady. When the character's 15, but like this is what I sounded like at 15. I had a low voice. So it's again kind of in that vein of you gotta do things for the show.
Yeah.
You gotta do things that will serve the show, and you gotta check your own insecurities at the door.
Oh, so good.
If your insecurity is about your natural voice, you gotta be able to put that away and be like, if you just want normal me, here it is.
I needed to hear that. Oh, that was so good. Oh my god, that was so good. Next.
part of voice acting is acting. And I'd like to know from each person here, who do you look up to when you're thinking about acting? Because we all, when we get into acting or theatrical work or voiceover, we all have people who inspire us. Who's the person, the actor, that got you into acting and that you aspire to be like?
I would say
Yeah.
you ask part of voice acting is acting. I would say all of voice acting is acting.
Yeah.
If you're not an actor, you can't, like, people again, misconceptions that voice acting is about like how many voices can you do?
Yeah.
How big of a range of characters do you have? It's not about that. If you cannot grasp the emotional truth of the scene or the character, it doesn't matter how many voices you do, how great your voice is, it falls flat.
Yeah.
The audience gets nothing out of it, and directors can always spot it. If there's no emotional truth, if the core of it isn't there.
Yeah.
So if you're not an actor, you can't be, sorry, you know what I mean? Like, good for you can do voices, but you cannot be a voice actor because it is all acting.
I think I know what I want to say. So, I don't know a lot of celebrities. I don't know a lot of film actors. I don't know a lot of theater actors. So the person that I look up to is another voice actor, and it's Mona Marshall.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I love Mona Marshall.
Mona Marshall is such a legend in this industry. Number one, was in all kinds of 90s and early 2000s shows. And then when I finally got to work with her, a sweetheart, which is something that any actor should aspire to be, and B, just so good, just on it all the time. And I'm gonna throw in a second name, Paul St. Peter.
Oh, love Paul St. Peter.
One of the most impressive actors I have ever seen. Because the thing, again, about anime is you can work on one line forever, and then once you record it, it sounds great. So from the outside looking in, a lot of shows sound amazing, you know? But only from behind the scenes do I know these are actors who come in and get it right first take, off the cuff. Paul St. Peter, you give him a time code, he is out on the frame. The frame that the line ends, he is done.
Yeah.
And I've never been so impressed before, but that is the power of these actors that have been in the industry for a long time who are legends. When he was dubbing, he was telling me, like in the 70s and 80s, they didn't have the picture. They just had a script and time codes. And a time code is the hour, minute, second frame that a line starts and stops. So he was going by this rapidly moving number, and he would start right on time and end right on time. And if they didn't get it right, they were recording on reel back then.
Oh,
So they would have to cut out the bad reel and tape it together. So there was no room for error. So those legacy actors, you know, those really amazing like stars of the early 90s and 2000s, those are the actors that I look up to the most.
That's awesome.
For sure.
I love a lot of comedic actors. I mean, Robin Williams is fantastic. I love Jim Carrey. But like, I do drag full time, and so like a lot of my improv and hosting skills and comedy skills, you know, I take after other actors for voiceover too. So like Kristen Wiig is one of my favorite comedic actors of all time. Like Bridesmaids to me is just like, just a masterclass in dry, like really very sly delivery humor that's just so grounded and natural that you're just rolling, because it's just so funny. And I love that. But voice actor wise, I mean, Bryce Papenbrook is incredible. And when I first met him, I was a cosplayer at a con learning about voiceover, because I was transitioning from stage, and I was like, I want to get into voiceover. So I started going to cons, and he was the nicest person to this fan. And I remember going up to him and being like, I just want to say, it was really cool seeing you interact that way. And the fan was like cosplaying one of his characters. And then afterwards he like followed me, and then we like got to know each other. So it was like really cool to see like humans being humans. And then just how amazing, not only his voice is, but like just his acting chops are ridiculous. And people are like, Bryce is in everything. I'm like, yeah, he's great. He should be in everything.
He should be.
So like I as someone who has a very similar kind of like range and register to like those protagonists higher areas, I'm always like, oh, Bryce, I love listening to his performances and learning things, because we like to steal as actors, and he has so much knowledge and breadth in his range. It's crazy.
For me, someone that I look up to is Colleen Clinkenbeard.
Oh.
Yes.
She's amazing. I started out as a stage actor. When I started doing anime, I didn't know anything about anime, like nothing whatsoever. And obviously, lower voices don't always have like all the roles and stuff. But we have our place, within it. But we're not going to be your cute squeaky leads generally. And Colleen, she's in One Piece and all the things. She's amazing. She also has a lower register, but she also has like this wide, amazing range. And I remember a few years into my career just kind of reaching out to her and talking to her, like how did you get comfortable with your own voice and where it falls naturally, and how did you find a place in the industry for yourself? And she was just so encouraging. We've stayed in touch through the years, and she's also a mom. I'm a mom. I have a 2.5-year-old. That totally changes your life and your perception, your career, and things. And Colleen's been really supportive in my journey as a mom too. So she's someone I really admire and look up to, and she's an A+ human. She's amazing.
For me, when I decided I wanted to be an actor, I decided I wanted to be on Broadway in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I've pivoted a little bit. the dream has changed, but the performance/actor that like I saw and it was life-changing is a very specific video of Patti LuPone singing "Ladies Who Lunch" at someone's birthday.
I love that. I watched that video.
So
like
good.
I watched it like a million times in 6th grade. I was like, this is it. I have to be an actor now. So that's my
The pinnacle.
Oh, I knew exactly what you were gonna say.
I knew exactly what I knew it. Oh, so good.
Yeah, that's mine.
You can tell who the theater actors are. The theater with the kids.
For me, I have kind of a few inspirations. For voice acting specifically, Colleen is like it for me. Like her tone and her natural range is so seductive, but not like in a creepy way. Like there's something that lures you in about her voice, and it's just so good. And then Troy Baker is another huge inspiration for me. But for like stage and film and TV, whatever, one of my biggest inspirations is Viola Davis. She is so good at every single thing that she does. I want to have that much power in the things that I do.
Yeah, so for me, I accidentally fell into acting. I started off as a singer, so and I'm still a singer.
Yeah.
But my mom, she was advised. So I started singing and performing on stage when I was 7 years old. And so one of the teachers at my elementary school told my mom like, "Hey, you should give your daughter an agent." And so my mom was like, "Oh, cool. So all the agents will have like access to all the singing opportunities." No. So she got me a couple of meetings with agents, and my very first agent that I was signed on for, they only did commercials. And my mom had no idea, and she was like, "Why do they keep sending you commercial auditions?" And the older I get, the more I realize I'm like, "Oh, of course, because they're commercial agents." So actually what got me into acting was doing commercials, because I went in for an audition for it was a commercial for Barbie, and I was like 9 years old, and I was obsessed. I walked in and I was just like, I want to play with Barbies in front of a camera. And then I booked my first gig with Texaco, and I remember just how fun the environment was. I was like 9 as well when I booked it, and so like as a kid I was just like, wow, this is so fun. Like I get to play with like cast and crew. There was the teachers on set that would like give you homework and stuff for school, and there were other kids too. And so so for me, from a very young age, it wasn't necessarily like someone that brought me into acting. It was more so the environment that I was kind of surrounded with, and the opportunities that I was very lucky to book. So yeah, that was kind of my rush into it, and I just kind of kept falling into the different forms, the different fields, the different mediums of acting from there. It just kind of snowballed.
Love it. Yeah.
How do you guys how do you treat different voice acting roles or situations such as commercials versus anime versus video games?
You have a director that, I mean, first of all, if you've done it well enough, or long enough, I automatically, I know how to calibrate my performance based on what I'm doing. If it's on camera, I know, like, not to go waka waka with it, right? Because you blow the camera out. But like commercial VO, like I just recently did, I can't say the brand, but I just did one. And they did a very interesting thing where it was ABC takes. And they say, okay, very exuberant, ABC, go. And you do 3 takes. All right, just completely flat, no emotion, ABC, go. All right, and now let's do kind of a seductive voice, ABC, go. And you just did those 3, and then the client's right there.
Yeah.
And they'll pick what they want, and then they pick out of those, and then they send it to the upper, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know like how to calibrate based on experience, but then once you're in the booth, you can trust the director to guide you. Because like, if I overshoot something, they'll be like, okay, too much, let's go down. So, I mean, that's the great thing about doing theater is that if your training is in theater, you will almost always go too much. But the great thing about going too much is it's easy to edit. The hard thing is, oh God, I don't mean to poo-poo on film actors, but if you've only done film and you want to do voiceover or theater, it is very difficult for a director to say, we need more, we need bigger, we need more.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for an actor to like, what do we mean more? All I know is what I know how to do. What do you mean more? So that's the very difficult dynamic. But for theater actors, it's like, we start off with more. We are already too much.
That's something that I learned when I was like doing music and singing in LA. Like we would do a rotation of like acting and dance and singing and like recording. And it would always like, I would always get told, shoot for more, give me an 11, and then we'll go down. And as kids, you're like, be as crazy as possible, okay. And then like, as I got older and started doing theater, I realized like, oh, that's literally like happening in everything. So I totally agree with that. I think too, like I worked with Mattel during the pandemic and I recorded a toy, which was wild. And it was very similar to like a commercial setting, but they were like, all right, so you have this, we're gonna do all the songs first. And it was like, A/B different versions of like, we need this song to sound a little bit more like a kid. Now this one needs to sound like an adult playing a kid. And it was like really interesting. Again, like it's just a matter of being able to think on your toes in VO. Cause again, I think I got the songs for that toy early. Cause obviously I mean, I'm pretty good at learning a song on the fly, like play it to me twice and I'm like there. But sometimes, you know, if you don't get the song early enough, you're just like, what's the notes, what's the melody? And you feel like an idiot in the booth and you're like, I promise I know how to sing. That happened with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Like I literally had, they sent me just these sea shanties for the pirate songs. And they didn't tell me that, and they actually messed up and they didn't send the actual like words to the so I learned the melody of these songs and then I was like expected to sing that song. And so Jamie Markey, who was the director, was like, did you send Kiba the actual words? And like, no. And she's like, cool. And I was like, so there's new words. And so I'm trying to like, you know, but again, that's what we do is we just have to kind of be ready for anything.
Yeah. Because as far as preparation is concerned, there's really nothing different. It's, you know, I don't wake up in the morning and go commercial today, you know, anime today, video game today. It really is just, I'm gonna show up and I tell my students this all the time. I'm like, you are an ice cream vendor. I'm like, you are one flavor of ice cream, you're walking in and you're like, listen, I'm vanilla, all right? We can put chocolate sprinkles on it, we can put fudge on it, it's always gonna be vanilla. So there's no stress about like, oh my God, I gotta be commercial me today, I gotta be video game me today.
Oh, that's good.
For me, I'm just like, I'm me. What I regurgitate out of my mouth is always gonna be me. And then you just gotta follow along. Whatever script they put in front of you, whatever the director tells you, whatever mode you gotta be in, you slip into it kind of instantaneously.
That's good.
So there is no pre-prep. There is no, this is my thing I do on a commercial day, this is my thing I do on an anime day. I really do just show up and go, what is it? What do you got for me?
That's really good.
A lot of that comes just from years of experience and preparation and being able to do that. I love that word you use to calibrate your performance based on the medium that you're doing it. I've worked at a talent agency for the last 10 years. And you know, I see it all the time. There will be, just because someone is an amazing film actor doesn't mean that they can do voice acting. and vice versa. Even though the foundation is still acting and you understand characterization and nuance and all of those things, learning how to perform in each medium is its own skill set, and they each require dedication to learn how to do them. And then just over time and years, you know, you can just like turn calibration, do what you gotta do. And it's really cool to see. And so I do feel like what Marissa said, like as you get further along in your career, you just like, it's just natural. Like,
show up.
Just do it.
Do
You
it.
just do the thing.
Yeah.
That's why training is so important. And training is important, and then just time. I mean, you can't rush time, and that's just part of it. So you get better at it as years go by.
When I had done film for a little bit and I thought I knew what I was doing, I was on set with this actress, and I was in the scene with her, and I thought like, damn, she's not giving me anything. Like I'm like trying to work overtime to make the scene work, right? And I was like, oh man, this is just not going well. And I was like, poor her, she's terrible. So, stupid me, I went to, and I was like, oh, do you want to see playback? I was like, sure, let's watch the playback. She destroyed me in the scene. But I was so used to theater, I thought like, oh, she's not giving me anything. But she was so smart. So after I talked, I was like, oh, teach me everything. But she was saying like, you don't have to like, theater's all about body language and like, you know, all of it. There's so much energy. But in film, you can like think a thought and the camera picks it up.
Yeah.
You can think about mochi ice cream and like they're just like, that was amazing. What were you thinking about, right? But she was just like, don't do anything. Just be in this, just be. Simply be. But she then taught me like, also look at where the lights are, and at the moment where your big line happens, tilt your face and hit the light. And so she was like, we were doing the scene. I was like, oh, she's giving me nothing. And then in the playback, she would tilt her head, and on her light, her face would light up. And I was like, I have so much to learn. I have so much more to learn. So like, that's how specific the differences are. It is truly a complete recalibration of what you're doing and the way you're thinking too. Because now you're also in film, you're looking at lights and the camera and what lens are they using. Yeah, so it's amazing. It's so much fun. I find it fun because I love being an actor. Some people might find it tedious if you're only doing it for like, I just want to be an anime. But learning all this stuff only makes you a better actor in all mediums. So it's great.
So you guys are talking a little bit about you having to do other jobs because, you know, it's hard to sometimes make money as a voice actor. What is either the weirdest job you've ever had or the job that people would be kind of surprised that you've had in the past?
I'm a billing manager for a birth center.
Ooh!
Whoa. Right now?
Yes.
Oh.
So that's another thing that I do. I also work at a talent agency. That's primarily what I do with my days. So yeah, super random.
Used to work at GameStop.
Hey.
Used to be a seamstress. Once I actually got into anime, one of the weirdest things that I did is I actually flew to Japan, licensed my own anime, and produced the disc.
What? That's awesome.
I did a series of shorts. They were Boys Love shorts called the Konodanchi Collection, the Konodan Collection.
Ooh.
It was very good. There's it's an indie anime, so it's made by, well, it's indie-ish. It was picked up by Comics Wave Films, who do Your Name and those sorts of great movies. But this was a woman who wrote, directed, animated, cast, everything. These Boys Love shorts. This boy's a professional wizard. This boy suffers from crystallization. And then we also did the audio drama, This Boy Will Be Called a Villain. And I was the one that decided what graphics went on the disc, what the disc looked like. I reviewed the disc. I was the one that decided we were going to have audio accessibility. I did all of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Audio description, I guess. I do it on the disc. I'm the one that decided that we were going to animate characters moving around for the audio drama so that there'd be visuals. I decided what color the subtitles were going to be. I decided what color the security warning at the beginning of the Blu-ray was going to be. And for me, not only was that quite odd, but it was a huge learning experience. I learned a lot about what actually goes into the show once the dub is done and dusted, you know. And I was the one that organized, there's a blooper reel on that disc. There is a behind-the-scenes interview with the creator. All that stuff had to filter through me. So there's a lot of me in that disc. And I feel like people who pick up the disc, they don't know. They don't know who the producer was. You know, they don't look into it, but I'm like, secretly, it's me.
Things that I think about someone choosing the font color of the warning.
Right?
It's like, oh, someone has to do that.
I never thought about it, but I was working with a great Media OCD made that disc, and great Justin Savakis has been in this industry forever. He used to work at Central Park Media, so he's been doing anime a long time. And he came to me with a whole list of, you gotta approve this, and this, and this, and this, and then I sent it to Amazon, and I had to do Amazon's checks.
Wow.
It's on iTunes. I had to do all of iTunes checks where they'd write me back and be like, is this supposed to be this way? And I'm like, yes, that's how it's supposed to be. And all those approvals went through me. I was on a flight to Japan. I had the pre-print of the disc, and I had to sit there for 14 hours and watch it in English, in Japanese, subtitles on, subtitles off, closed captions on, closed captions off.
Dang.
And by the end of it, my boss looked down at me and she was like, how you doing? And I was like, I want to die.
I love it. That's awesome.
It's cool now.
Yeah.
Now that it's over and done with,
Yeah.
I'm very proud to have done it.
But during the time.
During the time, I was like,
Ripping
this
their
is
hair out.
crazy. And also, like, to license it, we had to fly to Japan. We had to meet the whole crew. I had to learn my very basic Japanese. I had to make an LLC to produce the disc under.
Yeah.
All things that I never thought I'd be doing, but I was just so. It was the late 2010s, and I was like, I just want to do more anime. I'm not doing enough anime.
Yeah.
How do I get more anime? And it's like, fly to Japan and buy an anime,
Hell yeah.
and you can do it yourself.
Get it, girl.
Weirdest,
I love
definitely
it.
weirdest.
I worked retail, Banana Republic, and then I worked in my parents' restaurant. And then I worked as an education director for the Las Colinas Symphony Orchestra, and then did a lot of freelance music directing. And then luckily now I do acting full time. So that's been great.
Right now I do acting and I'm a script writer for Crunchyroll, so I'm like adapting the translation into the dub scripts and stuff like that. But I also got an agent recently and have been doing a lot of auditioning, but some booking for like commercial on-camera stuff. Yeah,
We're the same
we're
agent.
the same.
Yeah, we're the same agent. Yeah.
But I recently booked something for Chili's, and I was in a Chili's what do you call that? Like a training video? Like if you start working at Chili's, you watch that. And speaking of actors getting other jobs, a couple of friends of mine in New York are actors, like stage actors, and they were in between jobs, so they got jobs at Chili's. And they texted me, they're like, Macy, what are you doing in this Chili's? Why are you in my training
This is a
video?
Chili's.
So I felt very awesome. That was
That's
a very
amazing.
full circle
Chili
I love that.
That's crazy. I like I said, I used to be. I was like, my job when I was a kid was literally actor. So like that was what I was told. I was like, your job is performer, and I was like, okay, no money, but okay. But I was in a boy band with Ross Lynch, and
What?
yeah.
He has footage.
Yeah, I have footage still of me, 12-year-old me, singing on stage with Ross Lynch, his brother Ryland, and then Will J, and we were called the Heartbreakers. So I was in a boy band. And then when I moved to Reno, I got a job at a talent studio, and I was the dance instructor. I've been a choreographer and dance team coach for 10 years now.
She got moved.
Yeah, I was in the show last night at the drag show, which also my full-time job that pays my bills is drag. I never thought that would be what I do, but I've traveled the country. I'm internationally known now because during the pandemic I produced online shows and did drag shows from home, which was like me sitting in front of my desk with a green screen behind me and like actually producing something on Twitch every single Saturday and Sunday through the pandemic, and booking people from Ireland, from Japan, like all over the world. And so I do that full time now, and I host 5 days a week plus act. And then I was a vocal coach, but I also managed 3 GameStops in Dallas.
GameStop.
Yeah, back in the golden age of GameStop, I like managed a mall store all the way in like downtown Dallas, and then I managed a little small store in Dallas, and then I managed one in Grapevine. So I was all over the place, but definitely my oddest job was probably being in a boy band, because that was like the idea. Like I was a kid, I was like, I want to be in sync. So and I got to do that for a whole year, and then they got, Ross Lynch is Ross Lynch. You know, it's fine. Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, it's fine. It's cool. It's fine. I'm not there.
Yeah, we can tell.
I was also a store manager for GameStop for quite a long time, and then quit that because they mishandled the pandemic so catastrophically. And now I kind of dabble in content creation, but like I think the oddest job I ever had before I got actually into acting was I kind of was a little bit of an actor. I was an NPC in like a children's LARP.
Oh, cute!
I worked at Great Wolf Lodge, and I was one of the master magi for the Magi Quest, like interactive scavenger hunt, like
I know what you were doing.
Yeah.
I used to go to those.
Oh yes. I was the guy in the big black cloak. I went by the name Bane, and I was like known all over the hotel. It was cool. I was literally like a quest-giving NPC in like a children's live-action video.
That's kind of
it was really cool.
I love it.
Oh my god, that's legit. Yeah, so oh gosh, I've started so many jobs. But I was also an actor from a very young age. So, kind of like in between gigs, I did singing for an Italian restaurant, Macaroni Grill. Yeah, I was one of the opera singers. Yes, I was one of the opera singers for Macaroni Grill. I also did graphic designing for Daikon and Boan. So that was like in-house graphic designing for them. And then I also did like, you know, the handing out the freebies at like the 626 night market for drinks, you know, just like whatever odd jobs I could pick up kind of in between. But I'm very blessed, like during the course of my acting career to have been able to keep booking acting jobs, even though they were very gig to gig. It's, you know, the hustle culture is very real for actors in LA, even from a very young age. And so I kind of learned that very early on and was lucky enough to keep kind of booking gigs with only, you know, a couple of months of downtime kind of in between each gig at the most. So, yeah. But
what was the aria?
What
was the aria you sang at Macaroni Grill?
The Happy Birthday song.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, but in Italian.
Yeah. I love that.
But I would also, because at the time, I was also in my junior and senior year of college.
Yeah.
And so I was also like, if people wanted to request like something different, I would bring in like a random Italian aria that I was going to be singing like for my senior recital or for my junior recital. I'm like, this is practice. Thank you guys. I'll practice on you.
I love that.
It was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed at a lot of these conventions, and you've probably noticed this too, is that when people are here, there's that energy, that vibrancy, that life that people have. And then when they leave the convention and go back to their normal jobs or everyday life, people tend to lose that energy. They tend to kind of clam up into that. Is there any tips or suggestions that you could give our audiences about how they can take that energy, that joy that they feel when they're here in these conventions and doing these events, and take that to their everyday lives? And
I mean, the biggest thing I always say is like, it kind of relates it to also like what I tell people when they ask me about the culture of like drag and acting and how I do both. And I gotta remind myself, like at the end of the day, like what we do and what we are passionate about doesn't have to stop at an event or anything like that. You know, we are passionate binge watching shows on Netflix, or our favorite anime, or playing our favorite games and trying to platinum or get 100% achievements. And people think that like in the outside world that no one does that. And it's like, no, the people that come to these events, they're here because they do that. And the community doesn't have to stay in one isolated area. And I think we forgot that community can grow and build and change. And people always ask me like, well, so do you like, is Salem like, what is the difference between Salem and Kiba? And I said, well, Salem's a character for me. Salem is my longest running acting job so far. And she is something that has given me the confidence to share my fandom as Kiba outside of things. Because Salem is confident, Salem talks whatever she wants, and she doesn't let anyone tell her what to do. Whereas Kiba is like, I'm so nervous about making anyone upset or wanting to like ruin any relationships, or if I talk about my fandom, people are gonna judge me. And then I remind myself, like, I started in the convention scene before I did voiceover, like playing Rock Band until 6 in the morning, or like, you know, cosplay masquerade and stuff like that. And I'm like, why does that have to stop? Like, I think people are so concerned with like perception of themselves outside of these spaces that they're scared of that, like, I don't know. And so I would say, like, don't be afraid. Life is too short. We went through a whole pandemic. We went through a lot of crap. And like, I told myself, I was like, I'm done living like in like seclusion of like the things I love to do. And if I died tomorrow, I could say, oh, like I got to do some really great things with my life. But if I never let fandom like actually make me happy outside of these spaces, I don't know if I would be able to like even be here today. So celebrate it now.
And I think also like there's no shame in being a buttoned up version of yourself when you're outside in the outside world, but you need to be master of your own domain. So I take a lot of joy in being covert about my weebdom when I'm out and about. And I think that's fine as long as you do find joy in being that. I love being the very serious person at the business meeting that everyone's a little bit afraid of, and then secretly I'm a nerd. Secretly, I like being on the down low. So it really is important for people to just find a confident way to be, and it doesn't have to be the same as how you are at con. At con, you can be absolutely wild and crazy and partying and hanging out with your friends, and if it gives you strength to then close up and be like, now I am professional outside of con, as long as you're cool with that, I think that that's great. And then you can just find outlets that allow you to do your con thing when you're not at con. So very similar to Kiba, I have a character, I have a VTuber. Her name is Vixen. And when I'm being Vixen, I am being the way I am at con. I'm a lot more silly, I'm a lot more playful. I am talking nerd stuff constantly for hours, because stream goes anywhere from 1 hour to 9 hours when you're with me. It really just depends on what I'm doing. I'm shiny hunting Pokemon, and I'm playing Animal Crossing, and I'm talking to the community. And that's what I like to do at cons too. But I get a lot of strength, and I revel a lot in making people sweat when they meet me outside of those contexts and being seemingly very serious. And that would be my biggest tip for anyone is you don't have to be who you are at con, as long as you are happy with who you are outside. You can have different personas as long as you're cool with all of them. The worst thing that you can be is nervous and upset with who you end up showing yourself as. So as long as you find, like, I'm comfortable when I'm in the real world, quote unquote, not talking about fandom. That's cool, but find the ways that you can still keep it close to your heart. I have a purse that is absolutely covered in keychains. And so if someone notices, maybe they'll come up to me and we'll have a nice little conversation, but otherwise I keep it on the DL, and for me, that's very powerful. So that would be my biggest tip.
Go, please.
There's an electric energy that's at conventions that
it's hard to replicate.
You can't, like, outside of it, you really can't. And it's so fun and exciting to be at these things. And I know as actors, we get home and we're like, crash, like, so. And you enjoy every moment of it, but then your body's just like, and now I must rest. So in your regular life, it's finding ways to continue that energy in a more sustainable way, because you can't. If you did con energy every day of your life, you'd be dead. So you have to find a way to sustain it, and part of it is finding your community, your people that you can do those things with, that you can go play D&D with on the weekend after you get off of work, that you guys can watch an anime together or talk about it over coffee or something. Like in my regular life, I don't talk about anime as my job as a billing manager at a birth center. Like, that's not the time or the place for it. But I have my people that we talk about it and we geek out about it. So I think it's just important to have your people. That makes a difference.
And I think you make a great point. No shame in resting. And no shame in fandom in moderation when you're going about your normal life. If it distracts you too much and you gotta lock in at work, you're not lesser for not keeping up with every show every season or not having time to play video games, as long as you are enriched by the time that you do set aside for your passions.
Like, they made excellent points, and I was gonna say, like, the joy you feel at conventions, I think it's important to actors all the time. Ask yourself why you feel that joy. what is causing the joy? Why? If it's because you get to be yourself, acknowledge that, okay, I'm feeling joy because I get to fully express myself. Or it's because I'm in a community with other people who like what I like. Great, acknowledge that as well. Whatever that is, the why of you feeling that joy, you can totally bring that into your everyday life, because the reason the joy stops is, they touched on it, is because you judge yourself. You believe that the joy you feel, the person you are here, right now, is not enough. It cannot be expressed in the real world. You're judging it, right? So for me, joy, when I found joy, was when I came out of the closet, when I stopped judging myself, and I was able to fully express myself. That's when I found actual joy, right? And there are highs and lows. That's not joy, actually. That's not joy. You feel euphoric, you feel happiness, that's a high, right? Through the highs and lows, if you know yourself, if you are able to accept yourself and love yourself, and know that you have something valid to offer to the world, that is joy. So ask why you feel joy here. And whatever that why is, it's your why. You carry that into the real world. And you do not judge it, and you don't let other people judge it. You are more than enough. At any given moment, at a con, out of a con, you are simply enough. And that's where the joy comes from.
Straight to the heart.
You're welcome.
Can I ask, when was you guys the best moment as a voice actor in your voice acting life? The best moment. Best.
For me, that would be booking my first voiceover gig. Because honestly, I didn't think that I was enough. I didn't think that I would be able or capable to do voiceover work. I was just like, yeah, I'm an actor. I did music, so I have all this equipment. But that doesn't necessarily translate to, like, yes, you can be a voice actor. Because as all these guys have illustrated, when coming from TV and film, like, it can be a little bit different. And so, yeah, my performance was a little bit muted, but I also had a very physical kind of theater background as well. So, like, kind of adjusting from film acting to theater acting, and then bringing in my suit performance, motion capture kind of background with that kind of helped me out. But the very first voiceover gig that I booked, it was a huge win for me. So yeah, that has to be like the highlight of my career, because it's got me to where I am today.
Highlight of my career is actually not acting related, it's directing related, so I apologize for talking about my directing again. But not this last Otakon, but the Otakon before that, we premiered the 3 redubs of the Digimon movies. I had worked really hard on those. I was calling people, trying to get all the cast back, because a lot of them have not played these characters in like 15 plus years. And I also did a lot of work on getting the voice matches for the actors who have unfortunately left us. And when I watched it at home, I would get emotional, because I was like, oh my god, like, it's the cast that I love, it's the show that I love, it's the show that like really got me into anime as a kid, but then with the original Japanese music in there for the redubs. So I was like, this is such a cool thing, I can't wait to share it with the world, I'm very nervous to share it with the world. And 2 Otakons ago, we premiered it to a room full of people who did not know that that is what we were going to be showing them.
Oh,
it was just labeled secret Digimon screening. And so people were sitting there, and I'm sitting there, nervous, and they play the trailer, and the trailer starts with lines from the old dub to make it seem like, oh my god, they're gonna re-release the dub, and then new lines start getting sprinkled in. And people were like, what? What is this? And they were like, it's the first 3 films, redubbed, uncut, and we're showing them to you right now. Play the first one. And so I'm sitting there in the front. I can't see the faces of all the fans behind me, but I can hear their reactions. And so as we're going through the movie, I'm like, oh my god, the people are reacting properly. They're laughing at my new jokes that I wrote.
Oh, that's great.
They're cheering when some of the voice actors come back who haven't been in Digimon in years and years and years. And the music hits, I start crying. I'm crying for the whole freaking thing. And 3 movies, back to back to back.
Oh my god, I love that.
Highlight
so
of
great.
my career. It's never gonna get that good again. Everything after this is downhill, but it's all
uphill. There's more.
It's all gravy though. Everything after the main course.
Beautiful. I love that.
I have a one that's related to being in the booth and one that's outside at a convention. I've been told constantly, like growing up, like I was never going to be good enough for anything because of the color of my skin, how heavy I am, or because I am a queer person. And like literally it felt like the only fans I ever had were my parents, which is like, some people like, that's sad. And I'm like, no, it's like I had the very best supportive parents in the world. And so when I got into voiceover, my biggest thing, like, again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, was like being the voice for someone that I didn't hear myself in, you know. And I remember I had always was like, I know I can lead a show. I know that I have the capability. It's just got to come eventually. And to a point where at one point someone had told me that I looked up to that, I was like, oh, well, you're never going to be a lead. And they told that to me, and it like broke me down because I was like, what, like, that's not why I'm doing this, but it's like, man, like, you're basically telling me I'm not good enough to do this. And I don't believe that, but now you're telling me, and I'm like, oh, self-doubt. So I remember I auditioned for a show called Phantom of the Idol, and I went in actually for a retake for like a DVD release of Reincarnated as a Sword. So I drove to Houston for one line. And they were like, yeah, drive to Houston. I was like, can I just record from home? And they're like, no. And I was like, cool. So I'm glad I did, because they were like, yeah, we also have an audition to throw your way. And I was like, okay. And like, it's this show, Phantom of the Idol. This character, Yuya, he's like got two personalities because he's possessed by this idol girl, and then he's regular self. And I was like, okay, like singing show. And I remember I did the audition. And at this point, again, like this is the lead character. So I was like, I'm going to do my best. You know, I'm not going to get my hopes up. And so I left, I did all my stuff, we went, and I flew out of town for my friend's wedding. And I was in the hotel room, and I got an email, and it was like, hey, we need to book you for some time for Phantom of the Idol for the role of Yuya. And I was like, Yuya, I was like, and I like looked it up again to make sure, I was like, that's the lead. And I remember I actually fell on the ground, I cried, and I called him, and I said, I got the lead in Phantom of the Idol. I am a lead in an anime for once. And like, I was just sobbing. And like, I was inconsolable because like, for me, it was like seeing someone see me for my talent, not for how I looked or anything like that. But now kids watching the show that may look like me or be like me, they're like, oh my gosh, like Kiva's a lead in something, maybe I can do something like that. Cut to a convention before I could announce Phantom of the Idol. I'm sitting there, and I get a lot of people that are like, I don't know who you are, but you seem nice. I'm like, cool, no worries, whatever. And I had this kid come up, he was 13, black kid, and he was dressed in a cosplay for, I think, probably like My Hero or something. And he came up to me, he's like, I just wanted to let you know, like, I really liked your performance in Haikyuu. And I was like, oh, thank you, like, I appreciate that. And he's like, it's really cool, because, like, I get bullied a lot, and I'm like, I want to be an actor, but I just never heard anyone that sounds like me or looks like me, and you're like the only person that I see, and it makes me feel like it is possible. So thank you. And I remember I was like, oh, that's so sweet. He's like, can I give you hugs? Like, of course. And he like walked away, and I was just like, yeah. I was like, oh. So like, it reinvigorated for me like why I do this, and it's not anything to do with the fame and whatever. It's just so that I can continue inspiring others. So that's like my big thing.
That right there is what, like, people say the word representation matters, but no one ever explains why representation matters. So like, then like that gets lumped into like, oh, well then you're just woke then, and it gets dismissed outright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is why representation matters. So my story was the same as his. Like growing up, it was just the way I looked. It was simply an impossibility for me to be an actor. There was simply no one who looked like me, sounded like me. TV, film, theater, voiceover, no matter what, there's just nothing. It's not possible for someone who looks like me. So my highlight was actually very recently. So I've never led a show, not once, but recently I booked Cherry Magic. Yeah, Cherry Magic. So growing up, like there was no LGBT representation anywhere, especially in anime.
Yeah.
But I remember like seeing the audition for Cherry Magic and knowing that it's BL, and reading the script and going, oh, this is really interesting and amazing. But there's no way. There's simply no way. Because like the history of the industry is, yes, these are Asian characters, and yes, these are Asian stories, and yes, it will be directed by a white person. It will be produced by a white person, and it will be played by white actors. The only people who get to tell our story are white people. So I assumed it wasn't gonna happen, but I read it, I auditioned anyways, and I was very emotional when I got the email from my agents that I booked Suge, because not only was this an LGBT character who's openly LGBT and talks about it, which I'd never seen before, it was an honor to get to portray that, but it was a three-dimensional LGBT character. It wasn't just a caricature. We were not the butt of the joke for once. Yeah. So in Asian American, like even in like Western media, just an Asian character in Western media, we're usually the butt of the joke, right? We have the accent, and we're always the butt of the joke. And then in Asian media, in anime, we don't get to participate in that because it's strictly for white actors. But when we do get to participate, it's the tiny bit roles, right? And if there is a gay character, even in that, they are the butt of the joke. They're the villains. They're like nasty, horrible, like just like openly essay other characters, right? So even that is a butt of the joke. So for there to be a project where we are not the villains, and I actually get to portray an Asian character, a gay character, and they're three-dimensional and a fully realized human being. Like, it meant that multiple times I cried in the booth. Multiple times I cried in the booth playing this role because I could not believe I was saying these lines. So beautifully written by Mason. Like, extraordinary Mason,
Really
right?
well done.
But I truly could not believe I was saying these words and getting to play this part because I was like, this is an actual human being that is lovable and also makes mistakes and isn't just a caricature. That was like the highlight so far. And I know there'll be more, hopefully.
And real
Yes.
quick, before other people say their highlights, I do want to jump really quickly on what you're saying. It is so easy for people to dismiss out of hand how much diversity matters because of the emotional aspect of it. A lot of people go, well, I don't care that you feel represented. I don't care that other fans feel represented. I don't care. I just want the show to be as good as it can possibly be. But from a director's standpoint, as someone who has assembled a huge database, over 800 actors all over the world, all different races, all different creeds, all different stripes, you just get better stuff when more people are auditioning. I had some shows with hundreds or thousands of auditions to pick from, and just being able to select from more people makes the show better. Because you have the opportunity to find an actor who really, really gets it, really fits, really has something to say, really has something to bring to the part. And sometimes that is an actor who's very matchy-matchy with the character, and sometimes it's someone from out of left field. They come in and they're like, hey, I'm not LGBT, but I have this experience. My father, my mother, somebody in my life, there's something really strong that I can say about this character. So I have had the privilege of leading a bunch of casts of like the most random assortment of actors you could ever imagine. Lovely, complex. The most trans anime dub that's ever existed, I think. I feel pretty confident going on the record saying that. Just because there was one trans character, it ended up that a genderqueer actor actually booked that character, and the trans actors ended up all over the rest of the show.
That's amazing.
Everywhere else. And I was like, well, that's not how I intended that to turn out, but everyone was playing a part that they could bring something to. Everyone was perfectly fit, even though they weren't matchy-matchy with the character.
I love that.
And that's what I'm about. I'm about representation insofar as, one, it makes better dubs, because you have more people to pick from. You have more perspectives to pick from. You have people from different walks of life to pick from. And then the fan aspect of, there's gonna be some fan who's like, I love that this actor played this character. This actor reminds me of me. This actor grew up where I grew up. I remember, even if you're not talking about LGBT, if you're not talking about POC, although you should be, even just different white people aside from Americans can be a lot for people. When I directed Tribe 9, there is a character who is foreign, and they don't specify from where, he's just foreign. And I saw so many comments of people being like, I'm sure when this comes out, he'll be played by just a random white American, and he will have an American accent, and you won't be able to tell that he's foreign. And I said, this is my show. Which means I sent out an audition that said, do your natural accent, I don't care where you're from, give him some urban twang, give him some southern twang, give him what you have to bring to the table. And I ended up booking a Northern Irish actor in Philip Sacramento.
Nice.
brilliant actor, voice fit perfectly, and the fact that he had this cool natural Irish accent was a cherry on top for all of the Irish fans. I saw tons of people going, oh my god, that's an actual Irish actor in an anime dub.
Yeah.
So it means a lot to everyone. All fans can really glom onto and hold on to, oh my gosh, someone like me in anime. And as long as a director, you keep an open mind, sometimes you will have those roles for everyone. You know, there will be a time where I have a role for someone with a specific background. I will have a role where I go kind of kooky, and I go off the wall, and I go with someone who kind of fits, but has something important to say, or the voice is perfect. But at the end of the day, the thing that I really want to impress upon people is representation is not taking away from shows. It is adding more options so that the show can be better.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's not taking away.
Yeah.
It never
That's
is.
really good.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because as an Asian woman with dwarfism, I've been shut out of so many opportunities.
Yeah.
So being able to work in voiceover, and that was one of the reasons why I doubted myself so much, was because initially I would never book a protagonist role. And my very first role was an audio drama, and I booked a protagonist role. And I didn't think that I was capable because, film, TV, camera, it's very much how you look. And I was always the elf, someone in a suit character, someone moving things in the back, green screened, motion capture. I never had the opportunity to play people walking around, So even being able to book big characters, that was huge for me because I got to play a person.
Yeah.
Even being able to book someone who, voila, you don't even see a person, just having dialogue, that meant so much to me. And so now that I'm in anime and video game and voiceover field, I've spoken to a lot of other LP actors, and they've all come to me and they said, wow, I never thought of doing voiceover as something that I could do because like as LP actors, we're cast in a lot of shows and stuff, but for the novelty of it. And so they were saying how it feels so much more accessible to them, and it was really nice to see another little person, actor, kind of in the voiceover field, being able to work, being able to financially provide for myself, and they were like, well, I wanna do that too now, because I see that someone else can do it. I see that you're an LP actor, you can do this, that means that I might be able to too as well. So that always makes me cry.
I love it.
When other people tell me that, right? Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Unfortunately, we are running to the end of our time, so if there was any final sign-off things you need to do, or any final messages you wanted people to send out there, this would be the chance to do that, so thank you.
So before y'all go, is there anything that you'd like to promote? And where can we find you online?
We'll just go down the line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Brianna Roberts. I'm so thrilled to have been here. You can follow me on social media. I'm Voices by Bree on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's also my website, so connect with me. I'm mostly nice. I post cute pictures of my dog.
For the most part, I am at Marissa Lenti on pretty much every social media platform, but also on Twitch. I stream as Vixen_VTuber. I would really love if people came by and hung out with me on stream. And to promote, the Amazing Digital Circus is happening right now. It is one of the biggest honors of my life. It is a very cool Australian indie animated series. Yes. And my character's focus episode is coming up soon.
Yes.
So I hope people watch it.
I love it. You can find me on Instagram at @TheOscarsYoung and then @OscarsYoung on Twitter. And Cherry Magic, the whole series is out. The dub is out. Very, very proud of that show. Incredible cast, extraordinary writing, great direction. Very, very wholesome and meaningful show to a lot of people. And then I'm also in Twilight Out of Focus with Kiba. And my character Rei Inaba has a pretty big arc that's about to happen starting next week. So very excited for that, Twilight Out of Focus. And then they just announced that I am in Delacoe's Nursery. I'm one of the villains in that, one of the vampire villains, so I'm excited about that.
You can follow me on Twitter and TikTok at MACYYYANNE, Macy-Ann.
Yeah.
A lot of Y's. Yeah, follow my TikTok. I've been posting more on there, guys. Some behind the scenes, some great stuff. I'm really trying.
You can follow me at Just Kiva Walker on Twitter, or at Kiva the Voice on Instagram, or Salem Moon Drag on other social media platforms. We have a podcast together called File Select, where we talk about video games and fandoms and more. I also have a VTuber, Elix VTuber on Twitch. You can stream. I do Paper Mario speedruns, Luigi Mansion, and horror games. And then also, you can watch Twilight Out of Focus. I play Chiaki, and I've been having fun messing with all my gay friends in that show. So keep me on that, and then also watch Phantom of the Idol on High Dive. It's amazing. It is one of my favorite things I've ever had a chance to do. And if you like idol comedies where Ryan McKeon and I bully each other, it's great.
You can find me primarily on Twitter at Lord Azria, A-Z-R-I-A. We also have a streaming channel on Twitch called _Retrocade that we do together. Please listen to the podcast, it's very important to us. And I also have a VTuber getting ready to premiere. It's Echo, spelled E-K-K-O-U, Leopard VT. That's getting ready to happen. And Cherry Magic I'll plug again.
Yeah, Cherry Magic, yeah.
And there's something I've been waiting for over a year to talk about that I'm very excited for, and hopefully I'll get to talk about it soon, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
So I am at Love Risa May on all platforms, so Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, except for Twitch, because I jumped onto somebody's Twitch stream and I followed them, and they were like, hello, Lover is a May, and I was like, so I changed it to Risa_May on Twitch.
Yay! Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was great.
Morning, Maya.